All right, here we go. Here we go. It's time to tell the truth. That's what time it is. That's the name of our series. And of course, we've added another little code name to that. Can you handle the truth? Well, sometime we can, sometime we can't. But at least we need to know the truth because scripture says if you know the truth will set you free. I'm Dr. Rosenshaw Belt, affectionately called Dr. Roz. I am the CEO of Dream to Life LLC and Incorporated, the wife of Dr. Adrian Belt Sr., and a bunch of other stuff. But right here in this moment, I'm going to be your certified wellness coach. I take the time to do the research, to kind of study and to read and to listen to other people and the other experts in the field of naturopath and holistic, because medication is just not the only answer. So let's get started. We've been talking, this is our second part of learning about some things that may not be as healthy for us as we think they are. And today we're going to use some of the words and teachings of Dr. Bobby Price. Take it away, Dr. Price.
The definition that food companies have for food and your grocery store has for food doesn't necessarily mean it's the definition that you should have for food or your body or your biochemistry has for food. See, for them, food is what you put in your mouth or you put on the ends of your fork and your spoons. But food is supposed to be real. It's supposed to come from a natural space. It's supposed to be naturally absorbed, metabolized, broken down, and then eliminated from the body. It's supposed to be free of chemicals. So with just those few things and not even going into how it should nourish you and the ways that it should and what should be in those foods, probably 90% of the foods that you're buying at the supermarkets or in the drive-through window aren't foods. They are not food at all. They're food products.
So thank you, Dr. Price. And then we've throughout the course of our doing these teachings, we sometimes listen to Coach Rochelle T. Parks.
So how do you heal the body, Coach Rowe? How do you heal it? By healing the cell. That's how you heal the body. And then how do you heal the cell then, Coach Rowe? By eating the food that God made. And I know most of y'all thinking y'all eating God's food. And I'm here to tell you, you're eating lab experiments. That's what you're eating.
Wow. Lab experiments. I don't know about you. I don't want to eat a lab experiment. So last week we talked about a couple of things. We talked about oils. We talked about leftovers. We learned a lot about leftovers, that things that how long we should leave them. We think it's still healthy. It smells still good, But today we're going to talk about labels and we'll see how far we get. This is definitely going to be a part 3 because I still got some more to share that we think is okay, but it's really not okay. But when the label feels like a foreign language, guys, see, everybody need to pick up the product, flip it over, and read the label. And then you start staring at the wall of words you can't even pronounce, you can't place, you definitely can't explain. It's kind of like medication. You can't understand the words and you ask the doctor, well, what is this, doc? Well, you're not by yourself. You're not overreacting. There's a long, complex ingredient list, and that can feel, if you look at it, it's kind of unsettling. When all you want to know is, are you making a good choice for you, yourself, and your family?
Number 5, foods with more than 5 ingredients, especially if you can't pronounce some of the ingredients. If you can't pronounce most of the ingredients or you don't know what it is, let's say you bought a jar of spaghetti sauce. Now, the main ingredient should be tomatoes, all right? Which means that the first ingredient should be tomatoes because the first ingredient is what that jar is primarily made of. But when you look at most of these jars, the first ingredient isn't tomatoes, all right? It's a long list. So if you can't pronounce it and it's more than 5 ingredients, I just can't imagine. All right, so with spaghetti sauce, you should have tomatoes, some form of healthy oil that I just talked about. Maybe you want to put some basil, oregano, those kind of things. But outside of that, If you start to see things that you don't recognize, you don't understand what it is, it's because it shouldn't be in your body. All right. So, foods with more than 5 ingredients, or especially if you cannot pronounce the ingredients, you don't even have to be a rocket scientist to know exactly what they are. You just need to know that it should not be in your body. All right. That's number 5.
So Coach Rowe has something to say about these labels too.
Trying to figure out what's good, what's bad on the back of a nutrition label, right? On the back of a food label, that can be pretty tricky, okay? I want to show you exactly the method I use to determine what's good, what's bad, so you won't fall for the okie doke. Stick around. I'm going to share my method with you. There are many things to consider. The first thing I want you to know that you have the nutrition label, you have the ingredients label, okay? What's in the ingredients label, that's what's going to kill you. Your artificial colors, yellow 5, yellow 6, blue 1, red 40, artificial sugars, right? Aspartame, your sucralose, like these are no-nos. How about monosodium glutamate, MSG? These are obvious no-nos, right? In the nutrition label, let's look at the sugar. We don't want a whole lot of sugar. We don't want a whole lot of sodium. I'm not really tripping on calories. I'm not really tripping on fat. I can run off fat. I can run off calories. I can't run off cancer, okay? So these are things we should pay attention to. How about the number of ingredients? We should look at that too. If something has 50 million ingredients, that's a lab experiment. We don't want that. Let's look at the order also. Usually what is made most of is in the first 2 or 3 ingredients, right? So if your first ingredient is sugar, you know, the thing is mostly sugar. We don't want that as well. So there are many different things you should consider when you're looking at nutrition label, right? The devil is in the details, guys. Don't fall for the okie doke. What's going on, good people?
So it's in the details. And I love the fact what she says in the order. That really is important because I never paid attention to what's first. If sugar is first, then the whole thing, because the largest amount is in the top of the list. So today's packaged foods can contain 20, 30, even 50 plus ingredients and names that sound more like a chemistry exam. That's why Coach Rose says we're a lab experiment. We're focusing on things that are not nutritious for our body, like the gum, the sodium steroid, the lactylate. All that can send even the most confident shopper into a spiral of doubt. Now, have you ever looked at a list and you got to squint, right, to see the 40-word ingredient list? You can't pronounce them. You don't know if it's safe. You don't know if it's harmful. You put the product back just in case. Leave the store feeling defeated. The frustration is real, I'm telling you. But I want every one of you that is watching this right now to become more intentional. Pick it up and read it, because you want to understand what's going on into your body. But decoding the label in the middle of the grocery store with a cart and a time limit on no chemistry degree, well, that's kind of hard. So they got scientific names, and please understand this is intentional. They don't expect you to pay attention. They don't expect you to look at it. I asked you, what could you handle the truth? They don't want you to know. Okay? They don't want you to understand it. They want you to just process it and just keep on moving. And they got ingredients like emulsifiers and stabilizers to keep the food from separating or to keep the food from spoiling. And many of those are derived from natural sources. So why don't we just go to the natural source, right? And then every ingredient listed on the label in the United States has been already reviewed by the FDA. You know, that ought to tell us something. Food and Drug Administration. Yeah, that doesn't mean every additive is ideal, but it does mean none are approved without scrutiny. So how do we shop with confidence? Look, the fewer ingredients means less processing. So let's look for that. The less ingredients that we have. Coach Dr. Price said 5. His number was 5, no more than 5 ingredients. That's why we did an extensive teaching on one-word foods, because they don't need ingredients. They're one word. They're the one word that God made. So the more of those that we incorporate into our diet, the healthier we're going to be. But let's read the first 3, because they're listed in descending order by weight. OMG. The first 3 tell you what the product is mostly made of. Because when they tell you that something is free of this or free of that, and you see way down at the bottom of the list and it's only 0.0 something, something, something. I mean, what'd they do? Throw a pinch in there? So read the first 3. And then if you want to look it up, you know, I use an app that kind of helps you understand, is this food pretty good for you? And then recognize those red flags. You don't have to look hard to see those red 40s and those yellow 5s. And I just get my heart just kind of breaks every time I see a teenager and they're eating Cheetos hot, on fire, with all that red on it. And you take their fingers out the bag and their fingers done turn red, not knowing they're moving over time towards cancer. Because that red 40, yeah, it's listed as carcinogenic. The yellow 5, okay. And that's why just recently they took some of those things off of our list and companies are having to redo it. But as I told y'all in other teachings, in other countries, it's already been banned. What's taking us so long? Because they don't want us healthy. They want us sick. So you have the right to understand what you eat. The goal isn't perfection. I never teach perfection. I want you informed and intentional. So when you walk out of the store, even if you pick up something, I do it from time to time. Listen, don't shoot the messenger, but at least you know what you're doing. And you're not doing it every day, all day, every week, all week. 365 days you're eating that particular thing. Every now and then you get to some of this, you get to some of that. I get it. But being aware and knowing is half the battle. So don't panic. A long list isn't automatically dangerous, but context and sourcing matters more than syllable content. And then every label you read is a lesson. Because over time, familiar names stop feeling foreign and you'll know exactly what to watch for. And then trust yourself, your instinct to question what's in your food that's healthy and right. Keep asking, keep reading. That awareness is going to protect you. You don't have to understand every ingredient. You don't have to be a science to be a smart shopper. So start with what matters most and build from there. Now, let's talk about processed meat. Now, we all know about processed meat. We know it's not good for us. We know it is, quote unquote, carcinogenic. We know it's on the list when you go to the Cancer Society's website. So the processed meat problem, what I'm concerned about is if we know that, why are we ignoring it? And why is it killing us? Because we know it's bad. You know that. We know if we eat bacon every morning, we know that's bad. Nobody has to knock you on the head and tell you that. Because we eat it anyway. My husband tells a story about his grandfather who had gout. And he fixed this big old breakfast with everything in it that caused his gout. And he asked his granddad, if you know it's going to cause you to swell, if it's going to cause you to hurt, if it's going to trigger your gout, why are you eating? And his granddad said, because I want it. Yeah. Somebody listening to me feels that same way because I want it. I'm going to die from something. That's what people say. I'm going to die from something. Well, from breakfast bacon to lunchtime delis, processed meat is woven into the fabric of American daily life. And the consequences are silently devastating. Why do we have so many people that are wrestling with, living with, even dying with cancer? Why diabetes? Why high blood pressure? Why all of these chronic diseases, and especially now, dementia and Alzheimer? Could it be in our diet? Can we look back over and see, let's just deal with this one. How much processed meat? Help us, Dr. Price.
Number 6, any type of processed meats. Okay, that's hot dogs, that's bacon of any kind, pork, turkey bacon, cold cuts, sausages. Get rid of all processed meats of any kind because they are level 1 carcinogen. Okay, level 1 carcinogen is the highest level that the IRAC, I do believe it is, the governing body that determines what is carcinogenic and causes cancer. That's the highest level, on the same level with plutonium and asbestos. Okay, the same level, cigarettes. Those type of meats are on the same level. And I grew up eating deli meat, so I know exactly. I've been there. But if you have that in your house, throw it out, never buy it again. All right? It contributes not only to tumors in the body, but it contributes to your increased risk of diabetes as well too. All right.
He said throw it out, didn't he? We know it's harmful, yet we can't stop eating it. Processed meat is one of the most consumed food categories in the United States. Hot dogs, bacon, sausage, deli turkey, pepperoni, salami. Oh, there goes the pizzas. These are the products that fill our refrigerators, fill our children's Lunchables, and our fast food orders. They're cheap, they're convenient, they're flavorful, and they're deeply embedded in our cultural identity. So the scientific community has known for decades that regular consumption of processed meat significantly increases the risk of cancer, heart disease, and early death. Now, the data is not ambiguous, yet the consumption rates remain high, and public awareness remains dangerously low. 70% of Americans eat processed meat regular each and every week. 20 billion. It's America's food. Hot dogs consumed annually in the United States alone. So maybe we got to understand what is this thing about processing from the animal to the product. Because processed meat isn't just fresh meat that's been cut and packaged like your mama and your grandmama did back in the day before they had a refrigerator, before they had freezers, when they used to grow the chickens and the cows, and they used to chop them up and put them in the smokehouse. Do you know that was okay? But now, because technology has improved so much, it undergoes chemical and mechanical transformation to extend the shelf life, because you have to eat that meat quick, and to extend and enhance the flavor and reduce the cost. But it's killing us. See, there's a process journey from the raw meat to the mechanical separation to the chemical preservation to the final product. That steak, that beef, that pork, that turkey, every bit of it, that fish, all of it, what process did it go through to get to your shelf? Because each stage of this process, y'all said you wanted the truth, each stage of this process introduces compounds, structural changes that this body that God made was never designed to handle in large quantities or on a daily basis. And when you understand this pipeline, the first step to making informed choices, we don't understand why we have all these digestive problems. Last week, we talked about how long we chew stuff. For one of these weeks, I forgot now. How long are we chewing? I'm being much more intentional. It's taking me longer to get through my plate because I'm chewing and I'm chewing. I'm making sure, as Dr. Price says, that it's like mush before you digest it, because your body can handle that even if it's the wrong thing. So the ingredients, they're ingredients nobody's talking about. Because when you have processed meat, they contain a whole cocktail of additives beyond the meat itself. And these aren't trace amounts. They're fundamental to how these products are made. So the sodium nitrate and nitrite, which is again listed as carcinogenic, but that's what's used to preserve the color and prevent bacterial growth. And then when heated or metabolized, that converts into nitrosamines, potent carcinogens. Anytime I use the word carcinogen, guys, that means it causes cancer. It's linked to cancer. It's linked to cancer, linked to colorectal, stomach, and pancreatic cancers. That's not a month goes by that we don't hear about somebody that is announcing they have cancer. Or we're hearing about a death of someone, a loved one, or a celebrity. But why don't we take the time to link back and to see what was their diet? Excessive sodium. Most of the processed meats contain 400 to 1,500 milligrams of sodium per serving. That's far above what a heart-healthy diet permits. Chronic excess raises the blood pressure, drives cardiovascular disease. And oh my God, the artificial preservatives and the fillers. I mean, if you were to get the chicken from the chicken house, it would not nearly be as large as it is that you find on the shelf. I tell folks there's certain fast food restaurants you definitely should not get your chicken from because they're huge. And I know, we fuss. That wing is so small. Look at that little bitty old leg. Excuse me, that's the size of the chicken. So when it's larger than that, there have been fillers, paste to bulk it up, adding chemical load that taxes the liver and disrupts hormonal balance over time. Yes, I am trying to get you the next time. I'm not saying you're not going to eat it. I'm not saying you're not going to have it. But when you put it up to your mouth, you're going to know. You're going to hear my voice, right? Because you're going to learn what it's doing inside your body. The damage from processed meat is not sudden. People say, well, I feel all right. I'm doing okay. It's not sudden. It's over time. That's why when we become past that age, you're 50 plus, on the other side of 50, you start experiencing all this stuff because you did it in your 20s. You did it in your 30s. You did it in your 40s. And now you're 50 plus. So it accumulates quietly over years. If you're listening to this and you're younger than 50 and in your 30s, then I'm so happy for you and I pat you on the back because you're smart to pay attention and to listen to this information that many of us didn't hear. We were destroyed. We're being destroyed for the lack of knowledge, but we're getting this now, and we've got time as God continues to give us breath in our body to get it right. Because the science is clear, comprehensive, and alarming. It's disrupting nearly every major system in your body quietly over the years. Organ by organ, the heart and the arteries. That's sodium, that's saturated fats. That's what's driving up the hypertension. That's high blood pressure. And the atherosclerosis, that's the plaque in your arteries. Each day serving processed meat is associated with 42% higher risk of heart failure per Harvard research. Brain and cognition. This just drives me right here because we're having an increasing number of dementia and cognitive decline. And that's driven by ultra-processed food consumption, driven by chronic systemic inflammation triggered by chemical additives. And the colon, the gut, our digestion. Listen, all of that is increasing, not just because of one thing, but multiple things. And all of this stuff is on the same list. You heard he say it, on the same list as tobacco, cigarette smoking. We're quick to criticize the person and point the finger at them because they smoke, and it says it on the package. You know, if there was a time it didn't say it on the package. If every food that we ate that was doing damage to our body said on the package could cause cancer, see, then they don't want to put that on it because you might not buy it. If it had red 40, red, and the yellow, all these things, and it says carcinogenic on the package, we might not be able and so quick to get it. And then the preservatives and excess sodium force the liver into overdrive. So then we have a liver problem. We got fatty livers. When I do bioscans for people, the majority of people, I mean, if I do 100 people, 95 are going to have a fatty liver. And then our metabolism. We know it slows down as you age. So over time, this contributes to that non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and insulin resistance, the precursor to type 2 diabetes. So processed meat, I'm going to say it again, has been classified as a group 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, group 1 carcinogenic to humans. That's on the World Health Organization International Agency for Research on Cancer of 2015, and it has not changed. Every 50 grams of processed meat risk is increasing. The more you eat, the higher your exposure. And there are people that are listening to the sound of my voice, or people that you know, that can't have a meal without some processed meat. Can't have it, won't have it, and don't realize what they're causing. I want you to think about it. Stomach and pancreatic cancer. Children who eat processed meat every single day in their lunch boxes, and you fix their lunch. Inflammation. That's the silent engine of chronic disease. Everything stems from inflammation. Something is inflamed. I don't care if it's arthritis. I don't care if it's cellular aging, if it's your immune system, if it's an autoimmune disease condition. All of this stems from inflammation. So that's even beyond cancer. It's one of the most dangerous mechanisms in the chronic low-grade inflammation. It triggers throughout the body. So if it's this dangerous, why in the heck is it still legal? That's the question we ought to ask. That's the question we ought to fight for. If science is saying this, if it's on the Cancer Society, why is it still legal? Because science says one thing, the FDA says another thing, and the USDA says something else. You know, the American Cancer Society, they've already declared that processed meat is a confirmed carcinogen. The FDA classifies sodium nitrite as generally recognized as safe. The USDA says meat processing, they regulate the meat processing, but they do not require cancer risk warnings on the packaging. Didn't I just say that? They can be legally labeled natural if they're derived from an organic source, even when they contain the same harmful nitrates. So the United States does not require processed meat packaging to carry cancer risk warnings. Not that it would stop people from getting it, but it might. Some people don't smoke because they know smoking causes cancer, despite the same products being labeled with health advisories in several other countries that don't allow it. So it's all about the money. The North American Meat Institute and major food conglomerates, they've spent hundreds of millions of dollars lobbying Congress and federal agencies to prevent those stricter regulation of processing meat. They don't want us to know. So their tactics include funding, industry-friendly research. I've seen, when I taught once before, they funded one of the schools for doctors and said, we're going to give you all the money you need as long as you don't teach this, as long as you don't teach nutrition. And they don't do it because they need that money. They need that funding. Employing former USDA and FDA officials as lobbyists, blocking or delaying mandatory labeling reforms, advocating against school lunch nutrition upgrades. We're starting to see some of those upgrades in certain campuses, certain schools, certain things in the machine that used to be there, not there anymore, adding something nutritional. It's not an accident. It's deliberate. It's deliberate, well-funded strategy to protect the multi-billion-dollar industry at the expense of public health. They don't even care about us. Other countries ban it. We're the only ones. United States is an outlier in global food safety, not because our science is better, but because our regulatory system is more susceptible to industry pressure. Here's what the rest of the world already restricts. All of these foods go down the aisle. If you go to another country, you will not see it. I told you last time, you go to another country and you get olive oil, it does not taste the same as our olive oil. So when you compare what they protect and what we don't protect, look at that, sodium nitrite in the cured meats, like your salamis and your bolognas. We allow it, unlimited. European, strictly limited. Canada, regulated. Australia, heavily restricted. Cancer warning labels. The United States, not required. Europe, required. Canada, not required. Australia, under review. Natural nitrate loopholes. United States, widely exploited. Europe, closed. Canada, partially closed. Australia, closed. Processed meat in school lunches. United States, common. Europe, banned. Canada, partially restricted. Australia, under reform. So why is our life expectancy lower than everybody else's? Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this one out, right? So we've got to recognize there's a loophole. And the trick that manufacturers label products as uncured or no added nitrates while using other items like celery powder, celery juice, sea salt, which are extremely high in naturally occurring nitrates. And when these break down, they do the same thing as synthetic sodium nitrite. Same thing as salt, okay? Consumers pay premium prices believing they're buying a healthy product. We think we're doing something right. And because we don't know, because we have the lack of knowledge, it's the same risk. There's false securities because shoppers are choosing natural products because they believe they're protecting their health while they're being exposed to the same carcinogens. And there's no accountability, except that you're getting accountable because you're learning, right? Except that you're getting accountable because you are listening to me right now. If you can handle the truth, that is. No United States agency currently requires manufacturers to disclose at final nitrate levels in the natural cured meat products. So here's what Europe does. They operate on a precautionary principle. If a substance is suspected of causing harm, it is restricted until proven safe. In the US, flip that, substance remain permitted until proven harmful. That's why when for years they had cigarettes and there was nothing on the cigarette until people started getting cancer and they traced it back to the cigarettes, then they put on there causes cancer. Well, how many folk had to die from cancer before you're going to tell us that? And the same thing is happening with that red 40, all the different colors. How many people have had to go through and die and have chronic diseases and chronic issues, and now you're going to say, we're going to take it off the market. Because it made us tons of money, see? So the European, they set strict maximum residue limit. Okay, if I keep saying this, we're going to move to Europe, right? Many nations, they prohibit processed meats from the school cafeterias entirely. Not just a little bit, entirely. Replacing them with whole food alternatives. At least we could give a kid alternatives, parents an alternative. And then transparent labeling. On their labels, you can see exact additive concentrations, and you're warned about high-risk ingredients on product packaging. So there's such a difference. There's such a difference. Look at the difference in life expectancy in 2024. European Union, approximately 81.7 years. United States, 79 years. And I didn't do it on here, but it's even lower for African Americans. Yeah, it is. That number is even lower than 79 for African Americans. But this stuff is preventable. These are preventable deaths. United States had 217 preventable deaths per 100,000 people. The Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, 145 preventable deaths per 100,000 people. So many things that are in our culture are preventable. So I got to ask the question again. Why in the heck is it so hard to stop eating it? Why? We know it's doing harm to us, but yet, why is it so hard? It isn't just willpower, guys. You know, we think you ought to have more willpower than that. It's not just about willpower. The food industry has engineered these products to be addictive. and also culturally entrenched. It's accepted. It is accepted. Okay, salt and fat, compounds calibrated to maximize craving. They're in the food. I mean, who goes to a baseball game and doesn't want to have a hot dog? It's America's food, right? What family doesn't sit down and say, let's have breakfast, and the first thought you think about is bacon and sausage? It's accepted. What lunch kit doesn't automatically trigger to think deli foods, deli sandwiches? I mean, that's just an automatic instinct that we've had for years. Grandmama did it, your mama did it, we do it, and we're teaching it to another generation. So processed meats are among the cheapest sources of protein, making them the default for food insecure households. I even looked at, when my mother-in-law was in the hospital, the kind of food that they brought to a sick person in the hospital is killing them. So it's an addiction. Oh, that looks really good, doesn't it? I know some of y'all already drooling at the mouth. That bacon. It's an addiction. See how good it looks? Then guess what? Neuroscience in the brain. Neuroscience has confirmed what the food industry has long exploited. They're exploiting us mentally. High fat, high salt, high umami foods trigger dopamine responses similar to being addicted to drugs. So the processed meats are optimized for the same effect, the smell. Some of y'all look at that right now. You can smell that bacon. Yeah, the scent. When you walk in the house and somebody's grilling sausage, the scent. Dopamine releases before you get the first bite. Aren't we doing it now? Aren't we salivating? Yes. The salt-fat combination that pairs and activates opioid receptors in the brain, creating a mild but real pleasure response. Oh, it's pleasurable. So it makes us want it again and again. And then there's that umami craving loop. Glutamates in the meats, in the curd meats, makes you crave for more. That's why you see the plate here in Texas, barbecue. It's going to have, and they put it on the menu, 3 meats. You could just eat one, but no, you got to have the sausage, got to have the beef, and you got to have the ribs. Can't have it without the ribs, making us crave for more. And you're not full long. And then it's a habit, because daily or weekly patterns that we have, bacon Sundays, deli lunches, certain things we do on Friday, that's neurological routines. And that's costing us. And it's a public health emergency hidden in plain sight. So colorectal cancer is now the second leading cause of cancer death in the United States. And the rates are alarmingly going higher and higher. And every year, we delay regulatory reform. Every year we delay reform. The science is already done. The debate is manufactured. And what remains is the political will to act, because it's going to cause people, the higher up, to lose money. So we know. Now you're without excuse today. And I'm not going to go into another topic today. We'll do part 3 next week. I'm not going. You've got enough right now. I know I've hit you with a whole lot. See, because the science is settling, the damage is real, the protection is absent. The choice can no longer be ignored or deferred. I've gone through some scientific statistics for you regarding where processed meat is in the group 1 carcinogen, and we need to demand transparency. We need to go to our government officials and push for mandatory warning labels. We want to help somebody. We need to make the shift. We need to hold our leaders accountable. We need to tell the truth. The most powerful thing you can do right now is share this information. Go to the YouTube page and find these videos and share them with somebody else, because one person at a time might be the one person at a time's life that you're saving. Public awareness. That's the first step toward any change. I'm stopping. You see my next topic, pre-made smoothies. We'll start there next week. But take this information, share it with somebody, help somebody, and watch that person's life that you might be responsible for changing.